Hey guys, tonight we're going to watch a video that covers not one, not two, but three lessons. Your book likes to kind of take a topic and split it into bite-sized pieces. So we're going to be covering how to actually multiply with fractions. So there's like one lesson that's fractions and fractions, one whole numbers and fractions, and one mixed numbers. So what I'm going to do is it all boils down to the same set of directions. I think you've been seeing that on those worksheets for adding and subtracting that we've been talking about the last couple days. So we're going to call this Lesson 4-2 to Lesson 4-4, multiplying with fractions. And today's date is 10/3/19. So the directions I'm about ready to give you are going to work for any kind of combination of values. Okay? So much different rules than what we have for adding and subtracting fractions. We do not, repeat, do not need a common denominator. It's so much easier to multiply with fractions. So let's get into it. So step one, you must, that means no option, have two fractions. That means if you have a whole number, you need to turn it into a fraction. If you have a mixed number, you have to turn it into a fraction. That's the whole gist. So let's talk about those two. What if you have a whole number? How do you turn it into a fraction? It's the easiest thing in the universe. So if you have a whole number, you just give it a denominator of 1. Denominator of 1. So for example, if we have 32 and we want to create a fraction out of it, we should just put it 32 over 1. And there's your fraction. Simple, huh? We talked about mixed numbers before. Let's talk about them again. So when we took our little notes in class, so mixed numbers, we must convert to an improper fraction. So a lot of times with both multiplying and dividing with fractions, just a lot of prep that has to take place. The math is the easy piece, right? So let's give you an example. Let's start with 4 2/3. So there's two operations that have to take place. Operation 1, we're going to multiply the denominator times the whole number. So I'm going to write that over here. Multiply denom, you know me, I get tired of writing that word out all the time, by the whole number. And so that looks like this, 3 times 4. But we're not done yet. Now we're going to add the numerator to that product. Add the numerator to the product. So then we're going to add 3. And when we're done, those two steps are going to give us the new numerator. Okay, and of course we're going to add this little guy right here. Denominator stays the same. Denom stays the same. So then we're going to have a denominator of 3. So when I do the math, I get 12 plus 2, 12 plus 3 over 3, and that gives me, 12 plus 3. Where did I get 3 from? It's a 2. I know, I can already tell somebody's saying, Miss Rosner, I'm going to send you a text about this. And I'm not mocking. I like the fact that you guys catch me on what I'm doing wrong. Okay, what is my... Okay, there we go. Let's try this again, shall I? So we're going to add 2 here. We'll add 2 here. The denominator is 3. So when I simplify, I get 14 thirds. Okay? That's all ensuring that we have 2 fractions. Next, we're going to try to what I call pre-reduce. Common factors from any numerator to any denominator. Now, there are 4 places you can look, so if you think about it, 4 places to look. So we could have, you've got a numerator, denominator, numerator, denominator. So one place could be on a diagonal from the left numerator to the right denominator, or we could go from the right numerator back to the left denominator. And the ones that people forget, look in a fraction. Look in the fraction. Could simplify there, okay? Now, you may have heard this before, and it's called, people call it cross-canceling. Okay? Now, we've done all the hard bit. Now it's time to actually do some math. So that's what we're up to next. We're going to multiply. And when we multiply straight across. So numerator is going to multiply by numerator, and denominator is going to multiply with denominator. So we're going to do that here. We'll say numerator times numerator. And that's going to be over, you can say divided by as well, denominator times denominator. I kind of apologize about my voice. I think I'm getting a little bit sick, so it gets a little bit scratchy in the evening, okay? Now, even though you may have already done this early on, you still need to check. Can you simplify or reduce your answer, your final answer? Simplify, reduce, final answer. Now, just because you pre-reduce, sometimes those stinky 3s hide out and you don't catch them until you're at the end of the problem, okay? Now, we did talk about there's a difference between reducing. That, again, means to divide out common factors. So I'm going to write that here. And it's only numerator to denominator. Okay? But we had talked in class, is that the same thing as now converting an improper fraction to a mixed number? That's a conversion. That's a completely different thing. Okay? So what we're going to add in here is you may convert to a mixed number, and we have notes already on that. We took a couple days ago together in class. If you get an improper fraction, except for it turns into a must when it's a word problem, right? Let's go. You must convert word problem answers to mixed numbers. And we talked about that in class, like if you went to the butcher and asked for 7.5 pounds of shrimp, he'd just probably shoo you right out of the store. But if you asked for 3.5 pounds of shrimp, he'd say, sure, no problem, got it for you right here. You know, I love my grocer brings it to my cart. I think that is such a nice touch. But I digress. Okay? So I've got 3 examples, and that's it. And it's one of each kind. It's a fraction times a whole number, a fraction times a fraction, and a mixed number times a mixed number. Now you can do a combination of a fraction times a mixed number, but again, you get the idea. So I'm going to go to the next screen. And here we go. Directions are just going to say multiply. That's it. And we'll have 3/8 times 10. So what we said we needed to do on this one is everything needs to be a fraction. So this is when we're going to go ahead and put a denominator of 1 under our guy. Okay? Now, what I talked about with cross-canceling, I look with any numerator to any denominator. So I look here to here, they don't have anything in common. I look here to here, nothing I can divide out. Here to here, nothing I can divide out. But it's when I go here to here that I notice that they are both even. So what I'm going to do is divide out a 2. Now I can divide by 2 pretty simply. So what I'm going to do is cross off the 8. When I divide 8 by 2, I get 4. When I cross off the 10, when I divide 10 by 2, I get 5. And now what I'm left with is multiplying straight across, where I have 3 times 5 over 4 times 1. Now this is kind of what I call a brain step. It's what your brain is doing to solve the problem. But I want to make sure that everybody understands where 15/4 comes from. Now, I'm perfectly good leaving the answer this way. However, if it's a word problem, then you are going to need to convert it to a mixed number. So we just do a long division, because remember the division symbol and the fraction bar, they're interchangeable. So 4 goes into 15 3 times, which is 12, with a difference of 3. We take that remainder, it's going to become the numerator of our fraction remainder, and the denominator is the divisor. So another version of the answer would be 3 3/4. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do 3/4 times 5/6. I'm showing you a different multiplication symbol here. So I already have 2 fractions here, so my job is to try to find any common factors that I can divide out. So here, nothing. 3 and 4, what they're next door neighbors, that's not going to do anything. 5 and 6, no, can't simplify. Oops, I erased a number I didn't want to erase. Come back here. So 5 and 4, next door neighbors, can't do that. 3 and 6, finally, these two have a 3 in common. So when I divide 3 by itself, I get 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So then I have 1 times 5 over 4 times 2. And 1 times 5 is 5. 4 times 2 is 8. So this problem required substantially less work. And it's not because it's a fraction times a fraction, it just has to do with the actual numbers involved. I ended up having, I didn't need to make anything a fraction. And when I multiplied, I didn't get an improper fraction. So I'm done. There's nothing more to be done. That's it. All right, let's do the tough one. And I don't mean tough as in impossible to do. I just mean tough as in it takes more work. So first things first, I must have two fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and convert these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So I multiply, 5 times 2 is 10, and I add the numerator 4. So 10 plus 4 is 14. So I get 14, and the denominator stays 5. And then I'm going to multiply it by, multiply 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So I'm going to get 7 fourths. So again, I'm going to look any numerator to any denominator and see if I can find something that I could reduce by. So 14 and 5, nope, nothing. 7 and 4, nope, nothing. 7 and 5, no. 14 and 4, finally, two numbers that are both even. So I'm going to divide 2 out. Start with that. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 4 divided by 2 is 2. All right, hallelujah. Now, let's be honest. I look at the problem and I straight away see where I can pre-reduce. But I'm just kind of going through the motions for you guys, okay? So, yeah. I know some of you are thinking I'm losing my marbles. 7 times 7 over 5 times 2. And my answer is 49 tenths. Now, again, this is not a word problem. That answer is perfect. If you want to convert it from improper to a mixed, we can do that using division. 10 goes into 49 4 times, which is 40, with a difference of 9. The 9 is the new numerator. 10 is the denominator. So 4 and 9 tenths. That's it, guys. Good luck now. See you tomorrow.